Hi everybody, happy Thursday. I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps and this is Lunchtime Live episode 63. So for those of you who are new here, Lunchtime Live is basically my video newsletter. I'll start off by telling you, what's new on the blog, what's going on in the Stitches and Scraps world. And then we end every week with a demo of some sort, usually related to knitting or crochet or some other craft that can be used with knitting and crochet. Today's demo, I'm going to show you how to make buttons out of polymer clay. I'm going to show you one way how to make buttons out of polymer clay. There are this many ways to do it. So all of the links to all of the things I'm talking about today are going to be in the blog post that goes with this video. The link to that blog post is in the description on the video. So if you want to see, the tools that I'm working with or the giveaways I'm talking about, just go to that link, and down at the bottom of that you'll see the whole list of everything that I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and get started. This week the new pattern is this ghost ornament, which I showed you guys last week. Sorry, the lighting is bad to show that. Let me show you here. There we go. So this is a knit ghost ornament with these really pretty beads from Potomac beads. These are called O beads. They're like donut shaped. So great beads to work with on a bind off because I just love the way that they kind of rest into the stitches. And this pattern is free up on the blog, or you can get the paid PDF just like most of my patterns. And again, that link, if you want to find the pattern, go to the link in the description on this video. So the other thing that I just posted this morning is a review of these beautiful hooks from We Crochet. So We Crochet had sent me this set of hooks months ago. I'm talking like maybe end of last year. And I've used them a couple of times just to kind of get a feel for them before I wrote the review. So I've just written the review. I want to show you how pretty they are up close. See the colors, they're really bright, right? And they're very vibrant, and I just love the way it like follows the grain in the wood, and it just they feel really cool to work with. One thing I couldn't get very well in the pictures is the thumb grip. If you look like right here, do you see that little indentation right there? That's the thumb grip. So it's really very subtle. The thumb grip's very subtle, which means these are perfect for small portions of Tunisian crochet. And I actually have been working on a 12-inch square for next year for a crochet along that is Tunisian crochet, and I use this hook to do it. So the hook itself is probably like, what, 8 inches or so, but I could fit 12 inches worth of stitches on it, and because it's wood, they didn't slide off. So I really liked using this for Tunisian because the shaft is pretty uniform all the way through. But anyway, that full review is up on the blog. And the other reason that I did a review of these and that I wanted to show these to you is because in Q4, so starting on October 1st, these will be the giveaway prize. This will be the final giveaway prize on the Friggies Crochet Along. So this is a fabulous set to win, guys. This is a really nice prize to win. You won't be able to enter till October 1st, but you can see the review and read all about it now. What you can enter right now is the Q3 giveaway, which is for this yarn. This is Lion Brand Date Nights yarn, and this is the purse that I had made with it, which the pattern is up on the blog, but this is a felt line purse that I've made. But this yarn is like super sparkly and fun to work with, and you can win 3 skeins of this yarn. You get to pick the color out of whatever's in stock, and that is the Q3 giveaway. So I have to talk to you a little bit about timing here. I'm gonna need you guys to bear with me on timing on things. This giveaway for the yarn technically ends at the end of this month, but I am going in for surgery on Tuesday. So I'm gonna be recovering, and I'm not sure at what point I will be able to reach out to the winner and send their contact information on to Lion Brand to get the yarn and all that fun stuff. I'll do it as soon as I can, but it may not be right at the end of the month. So please bear with me if it takes a week or two extra before I'm able to reach out to people and get that giveaway taken care of. I will do it as soon as I can. The information for the hook giveaway is already up on the Crochet Along post, and it will automatically turn on the first of the month. So you'll automatically be able to enter that one once this one is over. But I will not be around probably for a few weeks. So the doctors said anywhere between 2 weeks and 6 weeks before I can start doing stuff. I think what it's going to look like is the first 2 weeks I'm going to be miserable and not do anything, and then after that I'll slowly start doing a little bit here and there. So that giveaway will be probably the first thing that I do, and then 6 weeks I should be back up to full speed. So we'll have to see how it goes. It's all a little bit in the air right now, but definitely get in there and enter the giveaways, because they're both awesome prizes. So the other thing that's going to be coming up, and this will also be timing a little screwed up because of the surgery, but the next thing coming up is the next section of the mosaic sampler blanket. Now I'm being careful to fold this to only show you the section we're on. This is section 4, which is square tiles, and this was supposed to come out on Tuesday, which is the day I'm going in for surgery. So I'm going to put this out probably on Saturday, the 19th. I think I've got it scheduled for Saturday the 19th. So you get this a couple days early, and then the next section, I'll show you a sneak peek here. I'm mostly ready to go with it, so this one should come out on time, assuming everything goes as planned. This is the flower garden section. So that section should come out on time, which is like the second week of October, I believe, assuming everything goes to plan. So that is what's coming up. The other thing that should be on time, but I'm not going to promise, is the next magnet for the Friggies Crochet Along, which is this little spider. That's supposed to come out, I want to say the first week of October, or maybe it's the second week, I don't remember, but it's supposed to come out early in October. Pretty sure I will have it out on time. I just don't want to make promises that I don't know I'll be able to keep, so bear with me if it's a little bit late. So that is pretty much the rest of October for Stitches and Scraps, because I'm not going to be doing a whole lot. So unless there's any questions on that, let's jump right into the demo, and I'll show you how to work with the polymer clay to make buttons. So the first thing you want to do for sure is to protect your surface. I'm just using a scrap piece of paper. This polymer clay tends to be very highly pigmented, and tiny little bits like these little grains here can get into the surface of your table, and especially on a wood table like this, it'll get right in the grain and stain it, and it'll be hard to get out. So I'm using this paper. Now all the tools I'm using, there is not the paper, but the other tools I'm using, there's a link in the blog post to a Amazon list for all my recommended tools. So to start out with, this is polymer clay. This is Sculpey Primo, and I bought this probably 2015, I think. This is really old clay, okay? So this is what it comes, how it comes, what it looks like. This set actually isn't available anymore in this 24 color set. They have all new colors now and stuff like that, and you can buy some sets of the metallics, but you can also buy larger blocks of these individually. I got this set and I like it because I've been using little bits here and there for various projects, but I don't do a lot with polymer clay just because who has the time to do all of these crafts, right? But the thing that I use this for most is when I need buttons for a crochet or knit project. So the first thing you have to do is, it's called conditioning. You have to soften your clay. This can be really hard on hands. I have conditioned this clay already, and you can see that just sitting at the beginning of this video, it's already starting to firm up, okay? The warmth from your hands and pressing and squeezing on it will soften it up. Do you see how it's a little crumbly there? What your goal is to get it so that you can squish it and manipulate it without it crumbling at all. You want it to be nice and soft. Now this set here, this rolling pin and this board came as a set on Amazon. And one of my favorite ways to condition clay is just to roll it out. Okay, roll it out nice and flat. And you can see the edges are a little crumbly still, right? Because this has gotten cold while I've been doing the rest of the video. So you roll it out nice and flat, fold it over on itself, turn it around, roll it out again. And you keep doing this till it becomes really squishy and easy to work with. The other thing you can do if your clay is as old as mine and it's been a while since you've used it, it will dry out, but you can recondition really old clay with a little bit of mineral oil. Now this bottle is nice. This came for my spinning wheel. I bought this for my spinning wheel. It's spinning wheel oil, but it's basically mineral oil in a really nice dropper bottle. But you can use whatever bottles you get from the store, and you can just put a few drops of mineral oil on it and roll it in, and that'll help to soften the clay a little bit. I've done that a couple times with this clay already just to get it to this point. So you want to get it nice and soft and mushy and pliable. And the heat from your hands will help. So once you get it partially soft, you want to start maneuvering with your hands too. So let's look at one common way to make buttons. So this is called making a cane. And what a cane is basically a roll that's as thick as the button you want it to be. So now this seems fairly well conditioned here. So I'm going to squish it together into generally a log shape. Okay, and then I'm going to roll it with my hand on this board until it gets, and I'm being very gentle so I'm not squishing it too much, until it gets to about the thickness I want. Okay, so let's say that's the size button I want. Now I cut off the rough ends. Nice and even, there we go. I cut off the rough ends here. So I get a nice clean edge. Okay, roll it again a little bit, trim it off so it's nice and even. Okay, make sure you're happy with that end. And then you can just start slicing off buttons. So there's a button. And then you just can pinch it back into shape if it's a little out of shape. And there's a button. Okay, and there's another button. Now, two things I don't like about this method, and the reason why I don't use it too often. One of them is I find with the tools I have, I always end up squishing the button a little bit. It gets flat at the bottom, right? They make cutters to do this, and they actually make trays that hold these rolls at a curved bottom so that you can cut them nice and easily, and they even have guides and everything. But I don't do this often enough to buy all the fancy tools. So for me, this isn't always the best way to get a really nice button. But it's one of the more common ways to do it, and it works well enough. Now I'm looking for a needle because every button needs a hole. Here, let's use this plastic needle I've got here. So I like to use a straight tipped needle, not a bent tip needle, and you just put the holes in like that. Okay, and then very important, I like to flip it over and do the holes on the other side as well so that I know the hole goes all the way through and it's fairly even. Okay, and that, my friends, is a basic button. Now, whatever clay you're using, you'll follow the instructions on the clay to harden it. Usually it's bake it at X temperature for X number of minutes. It doesn't take very long, usually like 10 or 15 minutes is enough, sometimes as much as a half an hour, but depends on the thickness and how much clay you're using. But that is a button. So that's one way to make a button. Now, using this method, you can also make toggles, which toggles are fun, and I like to make them this way. So let's thin this out to the thickness of a toggle. Okay. Let's say I want my toggle, and you'll notice I'm rolling it a lot because I'm putting very little pressure on it. I don't want to make grand changes all in one go. I want to make gradual changes as I work with it. So that looks like a pretty even section and about the thickness I want for my toggle. So I'm going to cut off the ends. Okay. Let's go about there. Now I could do a straight toggle, or I could try to roll just the ends a little bit thinner to kind of taper them if I wanted to, and then maybe cut them off again to get a nice even end. Okay, and you can shape it with your fingers. And let's say that's about the angle of the toggle I want, and then I'm going to just cut the ends to make them nice and smooth. Okay, so there's my toggle, and then you just put your holes in it like that. Come around the other side and put your holes in it there, and voila, you have a toggle. So you don't have to go buy expensive buttons, you can make them yourself, right? The other cool thing about about working with clay is if you don't like what you did, you can just pack it all back up together and mush it again and do something different. So this time I'm going to show you how to make cookie cutter buttons. This is the method I use most often because you can use any shape cutter that you want pretty much and get any shape buttons that you want. So I do this even with the round buttons, but I like to use it for other shapes. Like in the picture for like the thumbnail on this and on the blog post, you'll see big square buttons. I made those using cookie cutters for a cowl that I was working on. So first you want to roll your clay into the thickness of the button that you want. And that looks about right to me. Okay, you want it fairly even and not too thick. Really thick buttons can be too much sometimes. Now this is a set of fondant cutters I found. They're not actually cookie cutters. They're meant for cutting fondant for cakes. I believe this actual set is still available and on my list. So you can pick any shapes that you want, and you can get sets like this anywhere. I use this little tiny heart shape for some buttons sometimes, but this time let's make a flower, okay? So I can cut out one flower and another flower. I think I can fit two in here. There we go. So now I have two flower buttons, right? Peel away the extra clay. And then very carefully pick up your buttons, and you can use your fingers to smooth over any accidents like that one that I made when I picked it up. But you can use it to smooth any ridges, and then of course put your holes in it. Now I'm supporting that with my finger so it doesn't bend when I put the hole in it. There we go, all the way through. And there. All the way through. Okay, clean up any little bits. My holes aren't really that even, so I'm going to actually widen this one a little bit. There, now they look nice and even, big holes, and there is a flower-shaped button. So to bake these, I put them on a baking sheet with some foil or some wax paper. You don't want polymer clay to ever touch a food surface. So if you're using these fondant cutters, you're using them for clay. You don't use the same cookie cutters or fondant cutters for polymer clay and food. Never mix the two. It's okay to use the same oven if you're not doing like massive quantities, but if you're doing a lot, like suppose you're selling polymer clay buttons, you're going to want your own little like toaster oven to make them or something like that, because polymer clay does have chemicals in it that you don't necessarily want to eat. Speaking of which, I know this because I actually reached out to Sculpey and asked them, Most of their polymer clays, while they may be safe, they have not been tested to be safe for small children. They're not intended for children, I believe, under the age of 8. So I don't use my polymer clay buttons. Just in an abundance of caution, I don't use polymer clay buttons on baby stuff. Because if a baby was to put it in their mouth and there are chemicals on it that the baby, it's not good for them, it's just better safe than sorry. I would not use polymer clay buttons for baby stuff. So that's how to make like basic polymer clay buttons. Now let me show you some that I've done that are a little more fun, because you can blend colors to do other fun things too. So remember the first one I showed you that was like a cane, where we rolled it like this and then cut it to make the buttons? This one was made like that. But before I rolled it into the cane to make the buttons, I first rolled flat sheets in 3 different colors, like this, okay? Put the 3 flat sheets on top of each other, rolled them together to join them, and then rolled them up like this and made a cane that way, okay? And that gave me this spiral of 3 different colors. And look, I've even got the glitter color in there. Isn't that cool, the glittery silver? So that gave me this blue, green, and silver glitter button. So that's one way that canes are fun, because you can spiral the colors. This button I made using red and then taking just tiny little dots, probably half that size, like this, okay? And so I had my red all, and I actually have a tutorial for this one on the blog, but I had my red all rolled out like that, and then I took this little tiny pebble of another color and smushed it into a disc, and then smushed it into the red. So then when I just gave it a light little roll, it settled into the dough right there and gave me these little dots, okay? The other thing you can do is mush the colors together to swirl them. So after I had done that with all my little dots, and I had the little ends left after the cookie cutter, I just mushed them together like this, rolled them out again, and that gave me that swirly kind of impression. And then you can finally also blend your colors. On this next round, after I finished all those hearts, I blended what was left of the pink and the white into the red, and you can see the difference in the shade, right? This is a little bit more pink and lighter, and this is a little bit darker on the red. So you can blend colors to get the color that you want. And when I'm all done and I have barely anything left, I like to roll them into little beads. So I like to roll them into these little tiny beads, because I'll eventually use these beads. These are great as spacers or on tassels or things like that. So here's a brown bead I have left over. If you have quite a bit left, you want to wrap it in some plastic wrap fairly tightly. You want to make sure it's pretty airtight. And then you can store that until the next time you need to use it. And again, if you need to soften it, you can add a little mineral oil to do that. Mineral oil is also great for the cleanup, because if it gets on your hands or it gets on the table, you can actually use a little bit of mineral oil will help to take off. Like there's a little dot on there. If I put a little mineral oil on it, it'll come off much easier. See, it just wipes away. It'll come off much easier than with soap and water. So mineral oil is great to have if you're going to do polymer clay. I'm just picking up the little scraps here. And that is my demo on polymer clay for today. So are there any questions on any of what I showed you? If there are, let me know. I'm just going to pack up some of this and I'll talk to you a little bit more about my surgery. So it's a hysterectomy, and that's actually, believe it or not, considered fairly routine surgery. A lot of people get them, and I'm sure it's going to be fine, but I'm going to be, they said, very tired and probably on some pain pills early on. So I'm going to try and stay off of social media. I have asked one of my friends that once I let her know that I'm out of surgery and awake and good, that she's going to post on the Stitches and Scraps excuse me, on the Stitches and Scraps Facebook page, just to let you guys all know I'm okay. And then after that, I'll probably go radio silent for at least a couple weeks. But I think everything is in order. I've been working hard to get everything all set up before I go, so that you shouldn't see any interruption in the crochet alongs and knit alongs. There just won't be much of anything else. Oh, I didn't show you this button. Ooh, see, I'm glad I started cleaning up because I was putting it away and I'm like, I didn't show you this. So this button was really fun to make. What I did was I made very thin little ropes of the purple and the silver, and then I rolled the ropes together into one big rope, and then I coiled that rope around into a circle and kind of mushed it flat with my fingers, and that made this button. So you can totally do all sorts of crazy things with polymer clay, but the one that I go to most often when I just need basic buttons is cutting them out with the fondant cutters. Okay, that's everything. I think I will just say happy Thursday, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys. Lunchtime Live is probably the last thing that's going to come back because this is the thing that takes the most energy for me. So I'll probably see you guys in a couple of months. So have a good one. Until then, bye.